Hello, everyone. Ron Gerb with Angelbeat. So excited to have Karl Camp, who is a relatively new solutions architect with AWS, been there about 2 or 3 years. Karl has pursued what seems to be a pretty interesting career path. He's got a computer science background from the Midwest, went to Concordia, but as opposed to doing hardcore technology initiatives, he's instead decided to focus on the cost and financial side of your cloud computing. And I think this is really relevant because now as organizations, there's increasing financial pressures. Suddenly people are concerned about everyone spinning up virtual machines. Everyone can set up their own cloud instance. Suddenly your costs could spiral out of control. So maybe, Karl, you could share a little bit of your background and why you've decided to focus on the financial side of cloud computing, and share with you how you work hand in hand with some of the technical experts within AWS to provide so much added value to AWS clients.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for having me, Ron.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, a little background about myself, right? So I studied computer science at Concordia, and I did really hardcore development during my internships and during my college days, right? So I worked with Caterpillar Incorporated and Express Scripts in the healthcare side of it. So I got a very wide array of experience in mobile app development and microservices, streaming solutions, and the like. And then as I was considering to decide, okay, do I want to go and become a software engineer, I had found myself in a situation where I actually preferred talking to individuals, right, during tutoring or just customers about how to build out solutions and how everything works on a broader perspective. So I wasn't at the time as interested in doing development as I was as to like having a broader overview and figuring out how everything works together. I didn't even know the solutions architect role existed until Amazon had reached out to me. In fact, I had no idea what Amazon Web Services was. And funny part of that, I remember going on the plane after going through a couple rounds of interviews and thinking, for this in-person interview with Amazon Web Services, I should probably look up what AWS is, because I don't actually know what it is yet.
Well, that was probably the time that they were branding it not as AWS, but as Amazon Web Services, before they made the logo change. So people just associated it as just Amazon in general.
Right, and that plane ride, I was really intensely studying for it. And then once I got the job, right, I realized just how much I really liked the aspect of, I can still bring in my relevant development knowledge and technology knowledge, but then also spin that off into customer conversations, building out architectures and helping them really build solutions in the AWS cloud. Now over time, because I had such a technical background, the thing that was most striking to me when I would discuss with customers was really they were trying to get a better understanding of how much is this going to cost, right? What should I need to know when it comes to transferring or moving away from my on-premise environment or whatever environment over into AWS? And doing my research, you start realizing like there are a lot of little things that you need to know, right? And that's why for me, it was very curious to actually dive into that, because yes, I can speak on the technical level, but the financial level, I felt like that's where I could bring my personal value. Since I understand the technology, it's like, but I want to dive deeper into the financial aspects of it to understand, okay, what are you trying to do? And so let me tell you technically how it works, but also how much is this going to cost and all the different cost considerations that you need to keep in mind. Because oftentimes, you will miss little things, right? And you'll feel like, well, I was misinformed. And I want to make sure that the customers I talk to are never misinformed and that they have really the best idea or overview of their cost on AWS.
Yeah, you never want to surprise a customer with this huge bill that they didn't know about. One of the things you mentioned was a critically important product that you work with, the Cloud Intelligence Dashboard. Could you describe CID in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, so Cloud Intelligence Dashboards, this is something that came out after I joined AWS about 3 years ago. And this is a product that personally for me is very exciting to see, because I love talking to customers about I mean, the cost and usage reports, budgets, and the S3 dashboards. Again, these are all great and free products that customers should use. But as you go into AWS and you dive deeper into it, you start realizing that not only do you want to have a basic overview of, okay, this is how much, let's say, EC2 costs or S3 costs, you really want to get a better idea of your key performance indicators. So, for example, if your costs are going up, is it just because, oh shoot, we're not controlling our costs, or does it mean that actually we're getting more users and so the cost per user, right? Yes, our costs are going up, but our cost per user are actually going down because we're economizing based off of AWS's scale. Now, that's where, for example, the cloud intelligence dashboards are able to actually provide you that type of insight through the key performance indicator dashboards, or if you want to dive deeper, we'll create more custom views that are more relevant to your business. Again, that's where the cloud intelligence dashboards, because it's based off of our business intelligence tool called QuickSight. That's where you can customize it, you can change it, you can make it more applicable to your applications, lines of business, so that the people who are viewing it, like the CFOs or other financial team members within your organization, can then have a better view of not only, okay, this is what we're spending on the tech, but this is how it's relevant to our business, it's how it's impacting us financially.
It's got to be really powerful because we know that so many of these decisions on migration to the cloud are increasingly decided, or at least heavily influenced, by the CFO, by the controller, and they want to make sure it's financially sound. I bet your role is increasingly important because a lot of the quote-unquote easier migrations, they've all been done. And those provide relatively straightforward cost-benefit analysis. Now, when you've got more complex systems, more legacy systems that you want to migrate to the cloud, it requires not only, I would imagine, more careful consideration for the technology issues, but again, I'm sure you provide a lot of valuable reports. I'm curious if you can also use the CID in projecting future costs to some degree to help organizations better understand their changed financial perspective or cost if they do migrate a legacy complex system.
Right, so yeah, with the cloud intelligence dashboards, at least from what I've looked into, I haven't seen it have the capabilities right out of the box to project into the future. However, again, that's something that, especially like when I'm thinking of the Cost Explorer dashboards, right? That's something that can be done, and that's something that we can build out also on the cloud intelligence dashboards too.
One of the things, so maybe you could describe a couple of your clients. What was their life like without using CID, without having the advantage of your expertise? And now that they have that knowledge, how does it change what the IT directors, the cloud architects are doing on a day-to-day basis? How does it make their jobs more productive?
Right, so now what we need, I just want to take a step back, right? So oftentimes this is where customers will start, and this is where I'll begin with them, right? Is whenever they're going into costs, they're like, hey, we're spending a little more than we expected. Can you help us out? And so they're like, okay, let me dive in to this with you. And then I ask them, so what cost services or cloud financial management services are you currently using on AWS? And oftentimes it'll be like, well, we get our AWS bill. That's what I have. It's like, okay, let's solid foundation. Let's try to build up from there. Right, and so that's where I'll try to bring in, free services, because customers often will feel like, well, I want to have a better understanding of my financial footprint, but I don't want to spend more money trying to figure that out.
Sure. We're paying enough for our S3 and all the other services.
And so that's where I'll start them off with the Cost Explorer, because it's free, right? And then I'll start off with AWS budgets, where the first two are free, and I tell them, create just a general budget so that you don't run into issues. In fact, it's not only a financial consideration at that point, it's also a security consideration at that point, because with a cost budget, right, you can then basically be told early on, it's like, hey, our costs are going out of control, And if you see that it's going drastically, you can probably take a look and see, well, potentially was it a security issue and somebody's spinning up resources that I don't want them to. And so that's all very important. So that's where I start them. And over time, again, they really love the services, they get used to them, but over time they start realizing that some of the capabilities that it has, right, like especially the Cost Explorer, it's all very, AWS provided, it's very rigid. So you can't make changes to it. Let's say you wanted to have a more customized dashboard, or if you wanted to, let's say, just keep diving deeper into like, okay, overall S3 cost, S3 cost optimization. Because if you're trying to dive deeper and deeper into that, you wouldn't be able to do that with Cost Explorer. So that's where over time, though, customers will come back to me and say, hey, we have outgrown Cost Explorer.
Okay.
And so are there other solutions that can give us deeper insight into our environment, let's say S3 cost optimization, EC2 cost optimization, our networking environment, where is our data going? And that's where the Cloud Intelligence Dashboards really comes into play. And so what we do is we grab the cost and usage report, which is the same data that's based off of, that also used based off of Cost Explorer. And from there, we basically build queries on top of that using Athena, right? So this is where, and the reason I bring this up, because the Cloud Intelligence Dashboards are something we pay for, right? Because we're using AWS services on top of that. But at that point, the customer's at a point where that makes sense.
Sure.
So as they get to that point, it's like, okay, now we have these queries, we have these dashboards, and so now not only can we take a look at the stuff that this Cost Explorer could already provide us, now we're looking at more customized dashboards that will give us information, again, like egress, ingress, like where are things going. I love the networking dashboard, our more detailed views into our reserved instances and savings plans, S3 cost optimization, just storage cost optimization in general, or even our trusted advisor services, right? Just a dashboard as to like all of the optimizations that it's recommending that we do and the savings that we potentially see as a result of it.
I would bet this is really beneficial to some of your clients' careers. So if you look at the way their job responsibility have probably changed over time. Maybe 5-10 years ago, they were a Cisco certified network engineer, racking and stacking switches and hubs and stuff like that. And then they embraced the cloud, they're architecting applications. And now, in addition to speaking very confidently to the CIO on technical matters, they can simultaneously leverage your skills, the analysis that you prepare with them, some of these built-in applications, and they not only look like a star in front of the CIO, the CFO, hearing the detailed cost analysis that you help them prepare. So they don't need to go back for their MBA in accounting or things like this. You can provide them with the tools, and then these individuals can then, I would imagine, develop skills that make them even more valuable and presumably higher paid employee, because the CIO and the CFO said, that person's got it. He can understand our business, he understands the technical complexities, but he can also be aware of the trade-offs, what we can do that's financially prudent, and it seems like a win-win all around.
Exactly. Yes, that's the hope of the service itself. So, yeah.
That's great. So what are some of the exciting things as you look ahead to the future that you might be working on, or some new product or enhancements that may be publicly announced or might be coming down the pike? If you can discuss that.
Yeah, there's only so much I can discuss, and I'm trying to think if, because of, the NDA and everything, I think probably at that point, I'm probably going to have to table that one just because.
So let's do this.
Yeah.
So the good thing is, when people have questions, when you're looking at this in the Angelbeat community,
okay,
we encourage everyone, contact Angelbeat, #Angelbeat. We can easily put you in touch with Karl. We can give you his LinkedIn contact. Even though Karl is based in Austin, he has counterparts who have similar skills throughout the country, or quite honestly, for that matter, throughout the world, who can help you guide these things. You can go to Angelbeat #. we think this content is very important. Many of my other previous video blogs, we're talking tech, we're talking Kubernetes, we're talking S3, data locality, governance, all these kind of things. But I think, as Karl indicated, it's critically important that everyone in IT becomes much more financially astute. There's more pressures as cloud computing becomes more embraced. There's lots of risk involved in moving it, financial and technical, you want to be aware of. And I think it's great that AWS has experts like you to ensure that organizations are making the financially prudent decision based on all the right information. I think it sounds like a very good career choice. Anytime you can be highly regarded, so the CFO and the CIO of your clients, Karl, say, look, I know what all the technical account reps is. Let me get that guy, Karl, to come in here. I want him to make sure that I understand all the numbers before I sign up on this PO, and I'm sure that happens more than a few times.
Yes, no, I enjoy doing it. It's really fun just to really make sure that I like making sure that the customer, is happy. Because at the end of the day, the last thing I want is not that I sell more, but more that I don't want to get an email from the customer saying, hey, this is costing more than I thought. That's actually the last thing I want to hear, because an unsatisfied customer is not a customer, that
That's
anyone.
right. And from Jeff Bezos, now sort of retired on down, I think most of us are very much aware of the customer obsessive culture on a very positive basis within the broader Amazon organization.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, good. Well, thank you so much, Karl. Very informative. Again, follow up with Angelbeat, #Angelbeat. It's a little easier for me to put you in touch with Karl, but I encourage everyone to not be scared or think that understanding the cost of technology is that confusing, because Karl and his team and his tools will make it very easy for you.
Yes, no, I'm more than happy to have these conversations, right? It's completely free. I can just hop in and help you out. So
That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Karl. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Ron.